Cool. Dan, wonderful to meet you, sir. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, pleasure.
So, before we get into your life of business and therapy and coaching, I want to know first and foremost, living through that pandemic did so many things, shuffled so many things around. How many waves from living through that time period do you still feel now in the work that you do?
Oh wow. All of it. I mean everything changed, right? And it hasn't really changed back. I was talking to someone over lunch yesterday and everybody was throwing around this term the new normal for a long time, but that is true, right? It's not the way it was before. And I know that the pandemic was a tough and scary time for many people, but it also like a lot of things like that also created a lot of opportunities. So for me it was very impactful for my career, my clients, the work that I do. It just changed so many paradigm shifts happened that really changed the business world as well as the rest of the world.
So talk to me a little bit about exactly what you do on a daily basis. On paper, there's a lot going on with, the coaching and the being a marketing and sales guru. But if I was to put you in front of a group of third graders at career day, and one of the kids in the back of the room is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Yeah, I love that. I love that third grader thing. Yeah, no, I'm a business coach. I help companies figure out how to overhaul and scale their businesses. My specialty is really sales and marketing and customer experience. So I had that conversation recently with my fourth grader, trying to explain all this complicated stuff that I do to her. And it was, as a marketer, it was very humbling. I'm like, I gotta get distill your message down to something that she understands. She's pretty smart, but distill it to something that she understands. So yeah, and I also run a couple businesses myself. I've got a media company that covers the emerging tech and AI space. So I speak a lot on emerging tech, AI, and future of work. And I also have a sales agency to help technology firms that are struggling with business development.
What did you want to be when you were in the fourth grade, when you were a kid? What was your dream?
I was always like a techie. I worked for my dad's IT company when I was like 11 years old. He paid me in bagels back then, and that was fine by me. And it was something I just did with my dad. So that's how I started. I got my hands dirty, opening up computers and doing all that stuff. And went to school originally for technology. I realized pretty early on I was better at the business side of technology than the technical side of technology, and so ever since I kind of realized that, I've spent most of my career on the sales, marketing, and media side of the tech business.
So talk to me a little bit about your career trajectory. How did you get to a point where you knew? Was there a moment that you knew that coaching and this path was for you? How did you arrive at this point?
Yeah, I started off, working, doing sales and marketing programs for some big brands, right? Early in my career, I was fortunate through some of my media work to get a chance to work with, IBM, Xerox, Cisco, HP, companies like that. And then as much as you think all those companies have it all figured out, they don't, right? And so, that was very exciting for a while. But then it got to the point where it's kind of the corporate world, and you kind of get tired of the same corporate stuff happening, day in and day out. And I started, looking at some of my friends and people in the community that had small businesses, and realized that there was a lot of value in the lessons I learned from dealing with those big corporations and how they run, their businesses, that I could help local businesses, SMBs, startups, apply that knowledge. And, some of it's just general business management, but a lot of it was around, sales and marketing strategies, communication strategies, customer experience. And so, I had this kind of, epiphany moment where I was like, if you do something in the corporate world, it's great. We did great work for all those big brands. But at the end of the day, they're still big brands and they still do what they do. But if you do that with a startup or a small business, it's impacting that person's family, putting food on their kids' plates and things. And so that's why I started going into the coaching world, so I can make more of an impact and share the knowledge that I've gleaned over the years.
What company exists out there that you admire the most? I mean, we live in a world of standing, we all stand on the shoulders of giants. Is there one from the top down that's doing it right in your estimation?
To be honest with you, I think the big companies, they do a lot of things right and they do a lot of things wrong. I don't know that there's one company that I would say, does everything right. From a marketing standpoint, certainly the Apples of the world have always been kind of the model, right? To be able to, create a movement, to articulate your value proposition in a simple enough way that, it can be adopted by a lot of people. I think, Steve Jobs obviously did that. And there's others, but I think the companies that I admire the most now, are doing a good job of not only doing good but doing well, meaning they do well from a financial standpoint, but they're also doing impactful things in the community and throughout the globe.
So, who's been a hero for you? Who's been that inspirational bedrock in your career that's helped you get to where you're at?
I've had a bunch, fortunately, and I look back and I think that was really a key, differentiator for me, growing up. Like I said, it was originally with my dad. He was the first guy I knew that had a small business. He, drove an hour and a half to, from Long Island to Queens every day. It was his own business. Nobody was, handing anything to him. So early on, it was him, and then I had some really good, business mentors over the years. People that were entrepreneurs, kind of helped me get that entrepreneurial mindset. There's a gentleman who founded the association that I now run, who also lives here in Long Island, who is sort of a trailblazer in the technology and outsourcing, and then AI and automation world. So worked with him for many years. Was fortunate to work with him many years and learned a lot about the soft skills, right? You grow up in technology and you learn a lot about zeros and ones, but you don't always get the people connection, the EQ thing, the relationship factor, and learned a lot about that from him.
So, if is there one person alive on the planet right now, whether it's in business, sport, otherwise, anybody that exists that you find fascinating, that you would like to hang out with, ask some questions that might help you on your journey?
Wow, that's a great question. I don't know if there's one person. I like speaking to founders. I like speaking to entrepreneurs who didn't inherit what they got, that started with nothing. If I had to think one that just popped into my head, Dwayne Johnson. I was telling the story the other day, The Rock, right? I was
Yeah.
telling the story the other day. The name of his company is I think it's $10 Productions or something similar to that. And the story behind it was that he was down to his last $10 when he got his first major contract, and he parlayed obviously that wrestling entertainment deal into I think it's $1 billion company now. So people like that, right? People that just worked hard, never kind of gave in to being content, and always kind of have this entrepreneurial anxiety, which is what I find myself with all the time.
The one thing that's emblematic of someone like The Rock is their success is hinged on being able to balance all of it, being good with their family, being good in business, taking care of himself. What is that for you? What gets you up every day and allows you to balance to be at the top of your game so all of these find a level of equilibrium that makes you who you are?
Yeah, it's a great. I love it. It's a mindset for one. I'm at a point in my career, fortunately, where you're not as worried about where the next dollar is going to come from, and so that's very liberating. Being your own business, or having your own business has its negatives, but one of the positives is you have, not everybody does it, but you have the ability to make your own schedule and find your own balance, not have somebody tell you what hours you have to work and things like that. So I think it's that. We talked about the pandemic before. One of the things that happened that was a positive, for me from the pandemic is that I work almost entirely from home now, right? And
Yeah.
so I've been able to spend that commuting time and office time, that's at least the unnecessary office time. I now repurpose that, reading, investing in myself, learning, keeping on top of, all these fields that I'm a part of, and spending time with my kids. I have young kids. And they're off today. They were just in my office. Happy Chinese New Year to anybody celebrating. And so they're off today, and they come into my office between meetings. I get to talk to them about what they're doing, what's upsetting them, what's making them happy, and it's motivating, right?
Yeah. So to be successful in business, it requires risk. What's the biggest risk that you've taken in your career so far?
The biggest risk I've taken was my first job out of college. I had an offer to do a tech internship with a very established company that everybody that I spoke to who worked at that company hated. But it was, the typical, old school company, benefits, pension, all those goodies that is hard to find these days, and security. And I remember having this kind of, epiphany moment where I saw these older guys that were there for 20, 30 years who were really, really unhappy. And I said, that's not for me. So yeah, it's well, back to your question about risk, right? I always thought I did a good job of kind of hedging my risks. I had a kind of a portfolio approach of things, and had a few different businesses, few different projects I was working on any given time to kind of see which horse would, kind of win the race. And so I always kind of hedge that risk. But I knew I wanted to do things on my own terms, win or lose on my own terms. And so it was at that moment where I was like, no, I'm gonna go for the less traditional, less secure job that had the bigger potential upside, both financially and personally.
So let me ask you this. If you have a dream tonight, run into an 18-year-old version of you, you can give that young version of you a piece of advice based on this life you've lived, the wisdom you've accumulated over these years. What advice would you impart on that young version of you?
Oh, I'm a no regrets guy, so I don't think I go back on anything. I guess if I had to do one, it'd be travel more when you can. When you get bogged down with responsibilities and family and stuff like that, that sometimes gets hard to do. But I don't think I would really change too much. I guess I would learn to perhaps get to that mindset we talked about, that mental mindset that happened for me really as a result of the pandemic, maybe sooner. I guess that would be maybe one thing I would say. But life's too short to worry and to go back with regrets, right?
So what's the best advice you've ever gotten?
What's the best advice I've ever gotten, personal or business?
Either way.
I think that's it. I think it's some derivative of the life is too short thing. There's a few different pieces of advice that I got, that always kind of stuck out at me, which were around prioritizing things, and including one executive for a very large Fortune 100 company, who in my mind when I met him when I was 20 something years old, was my role model, idol, or whatever. And he eventually told me over a drink that he regretted his career because it took him away from his kids, and he missed his kids growing up, and things like that. So him and a couple other really probably a half a dozen other stories like that. I guess that was the best advice that I
Yeah.
got, which was just that having a successful career and having money, but no one to enjoy it with and no one to spend it with is kind of worthless, right?
Yeah, for sure. So let me ask you this. This is a perfect lead in of everything that you've done and accomplished and involved to at this point in your life. What are you the proudest of? What rises to the top?
Um, I think the network that I've been able to create, yeah, we have like I said, a professional association with over 130,000 members. And so I get to learn and help, people at all different parts of the journey. We meet people that are, really early on, and we help introduce them to a technology. In that case, I meet people that, you know, are struggling with their business, and they may only be a couple important levers away from turning it around, but they just don't know what those levers are, and that could be super impactful. So yeah, I like this role of being able to kind of help people, doing it for the right reasons, and like I said at the beginning, trying to make an impact, not just a financial impact, but a life impact for people.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you, family, friends, clients, everyone that knows you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Oh yeah, that's scary. I've been trying to survey people actually recently to see if what I think of myself is the same thing as what they think of me. But yeah, hopefully people see me as a problem solver and as somebody who wants to help people with business, personal, what have you. I was always the kid growing up that people came to for advice, and hopefully I've become the grown-up version of that.
Right on. So, most importantly, if anyone wants to reach out, they want to hire you, they have questions, any of the good business going on in your world, where can they go?
Yeah, go to businesstherapist.com, dangoodstein.com, and you can get all of our links from there.
Okay, Dan, this has been wonderful. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your story. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
My pleasure, Joe. Good
Cool.
meeting you.
Thank you.